And we're live. How's everybody doing? We have this breaking news story. Joao and I thought we would jump on and chat about it. It's kind of a big deal. A big portion of the internet is broken. And think of it this way: when people, their computer isn't working, to them the internet is broken. I mean, this is a big problem where computers aren't booting, blue screen of death, some restarting, millions of computers. And it stems from an update from CrowdStrike. So that's what we're going to be talking about, because this isn't a small issue. We have airlines grounded, we have 911 systems in some places down, and the reports of things being down just keep pouring in. It seems like every time I check it, I see new things down that are reported down.
Yeah. Hi, Jay. Hi, everybody. So, this is yet another massive story that we've had in IT this year. So, apparently, CrowdStrike has managed to pull off more disruption than previous malware incidents put together.
The human factor.
Yeah, not just hospitals, not just airports, not just trains. I mean, Sky News, the British television company, they had to interrupt
my audio. I apologize. I forgot to turn it down.
They had to interrupt their broadcast a couple of hours ago precisely because of this issue. I mean, that's unprecedented. Let's take a quick rundown of this. And the situation is that CrowdStrike has this software called Falcon, which is a security tool. And to operate, Falcon acquires information from workstations and from servers and from other devices. And that information is collected through something called a sensor. That sensor is deployed to your workstations, to your servers, and it will provide the central Falcon deployment with all the data. And this sensor receives updates, kind of like an antivirus does, for example. And yesterday, CrowdStrike, very late yesterday actually, if you're in the US time zone, CrowdStrike released an update that got picked up by the sensors. Now, the funny thing here is that the sensor contains a driver. On Windows, unless you specify it otherwise, the driver will run in something called Ring 0, which is a privilege level where only the kernel and the drivers have access. The way that Windows deals with errors in Ring 0 is that it kills itself. It's when it shows you the blue screen of death. So the kernel sees that there's something weird going on, a buffer overflow, a memory corruption of some type. It can't deal with it, and it can't ensure that the system integrity is maintained, so it rather shuts down quickly and halts rather than assume that something else is going to run.
Right.
So what happened is that this update that was received for some reason that has not been detailed yet was triggering an unexpected behavior, and the kernel was seeing this, and it was triggering a blue screen of death. Now, after the blue screen of death, if the system is so configured, the system will reboot. Upon rebooting, it would reload the driver would fail again, and you would get another blue screen of death, and you had no way out of this. And this is a pretty bad situation, because apparently, and this came as a surprise to me, CrowdStrike has this massive reach, and there were millions of systems affected by this. People were coming to work today morning, early today, they were seeing their systems showing blue screens of death everywhere, and they were assuming that this had been a cybersecurity attack.
Yeah, because the scale is just that big. Excuse me. So my microphone should be fixed now, everyone. Sorry about that. I had the audio level set for recording mode, not for live stream mode, internal. So one story, and there's a couple stories linked in the description, reported that it's possible, and I want to say possible because we don't know really why this works, but rebooting 15 times might, keyword might, get you a boot. If it does, the workaround here is the classic, use safe mode, go into a specific folder, and there's information online from CrowdStrike about, they have a file name and a timestamp of the file that you're looking for. So if you delete this file and then reboot your system normally, it should be fine, because it just needs that file deleted. And that's what we can do to fix it. Now, of course, safe mode isn't the only way to fix it. Linux live CD, live image, live media really comes in handy here because you could create a little script to remove that specific file with a very specific path. Don't use any relevant paths when you're deleting something like this. But that's the workaround that CrowdStrike has mentioned. And I also want to mention first, this is not Microsoft's fault. I don't want to make this into an anti-Microsoft, anti-Windows rant. Yes, it's true that Linux and other operating systems are not affected by this. That's just happenstance. This is Windows software affecting a Windows system. It's a one-to-one relationship. When one goes wrong, and it can cause the other to go wrong, as we're seeing with this issue.
There is something to be said to the architecture that Microsoft chose to use on Windows that makes it possible for a driver to crash the system. But this has been a problem with Windows systems since Windows 3.0 at least.
Yeah.
Now, when you mention using a Linux live CD to fix this, you have a great opportunity to just deploy Linux at that point and avoid the problem altogether. That being said,
yeah.
that being said, the state that the systems are left in, just endless reboots, endless blue screens of death, make it so that to fix an affected system, someone has to go locally and repeat those steps that you just mentioned and do it for every single affected system. There have been reports of companies that have thousands of systems, hundreds of thousands of systems that are affected by this, not just servers, but workstations and everything put together. And now there's a lot of work for all the sysadmins involved in fixing this problem.
Right.
And there have also let me just cover this. There have also been reports of companies that use BitLocker. BitLocker is a full disk encryption solution that Windows has. It lets you encrypt your data while at rest. Now, the funny thing here is that if you want to boot into safe mode, you need to provide the BitLocker code. That BitLocker code in this situation will be provided by your IT department. IT departments, when you have this type of environment, will likely also be running Windows. And they will also be running CrowdStrike. And they will also be locked out of their systems, so they cannot provide you with the BitLocker codes to get into the workstations. So, as you can see, the whole situation just compounds itself. It's not really that... Again, there has never been a malware incident that has caused as much disruption as this. And this was entirely by accident.
Right. It's just... and it's interesting, we got on the phone to chat about something completely unrelated to this. And, you were like, did you see the news? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll probably watch it at 6 o'clock when it's on my DVR. Why? What happened? And I'm like, oh, my gosh, no way. And then I started looking into this. And there's some things to unpack here, obviously. But at the same time, there's some things that we don't know. For example, like you said, how does a definition payload contain something that can trigger a driver issue that then triggers an operating system failure? I mean, there's some questions about this, but also, again, CrowdStrike admits fault here. Okay, so, we could talk about the Windows infrastructure all day long, but in the news, it's been reported, and CrowdStrike has said that they accept responsibility for this. Meanwhile, I've seen articles that are painting this as a Microsoft issue, and I think you were saying that they're contacting news outlets to correct this at this point.
Yeah, Microsoft was reaching out at least to TV companies that were opening with Microsoft machines are experiencing a problem, and Microsoft wanted them to correct that, to tell that it was not a Microsoft problem, but rather a CrowdStrike one.
Right.
The sensors that I mentioned for CrowdStrike, there are versions for Linux and Mac OS. Those were not affected, so the only ones that broke were the Windows-based ones. That's important to keep in mind. Mm-hmm. Also important to keep in mind, CrowdStrike, with all of the fallback that this has had and all of the reach that this has, the impact that this has caused across countless industries. I mean, airports couldn't get passengers through the gates unless they manually checked them in because the systems were down. Trains couldn't run on time because the tickets couldn't be sold, and some controls on the trains depended on Windows systems, and those weren't running. Gas and oil extraction, those run some safety equipment and some control plane equipment, and those were running Windows, those couldn't run. ATMs
Oh,
were not doing anything because they were showing blue screens of this. This has an incredible reach. So CrowdStrike, second largest security vendor out there behind Palo Alto Networks. Imagine if this had been number one and they had a proportional impact. Man, this could have been even worse than what it is. But
yeah.
it does bring to light some, at least, shoddy practices in what comes to software development and pushing out updates, because it takes zero effort to trigger this. You receive the update, the driver
Mhm.
crashes, the system BSODs. So what this tells us immediately is that no one inside of CrowdStrike tried to deploy that update on a test system before pushing it out.
Yeah.
And that's insane.
It's 100% reproducible. I mean, it's not very often. I mean, sometimes we talk about issues that are race conditions or you need this to hit that in the right way. No, all the work is done for you. You don't even have to lift a finger to crash your system at this point.
How does a company with so many customers, with so many deployments, ever considers deploying an update in this manner? Also, they weren't tiering the updates. They weren't sending them out just to a restricted number of systems to make sure that everything was okay and then expanding that number of systems gradually. Here is the update, everybody take it.
Right.
That's an invitation for disaster. That's the perfect storm right there. It just happened to be today. It might have been a week ago on the previous update, on another one.
Yep.
Blind luck.
Yep. And before we go any further, just wanted to let everybody know that I'm doing a little giveaway. My actually both of the new courses, my Ansible course and the Linux Essentials course, I am going to put links in the chat room. If the chat room gets flooded, I'll paste them in again until they're used up. So the first one is for the Ansible course on Udemy. That'll get you into that course. And the second link will get you to the Linux Essentials course. And please leave a review. I would really appreciate that after you finish the course. Just want to give everyone a chance that didn't get a chance to get one of the giveaways I've already done, have another chance to get one. So I'll check the links in a few minutes. They're in the chat room, you guys. So enjoy. So getting back to our point, I agree. It's so easy in this case to catch a problem like this. Just update one system. Now, one question I have is if a system is running and it gets this update, is Windows going to blue screen as soon as it gets the update, or is it going to be the next time that they reboot for any reason? And the reason I ask is because someone in our chat room asked if Ansible could solve something like this. My first thought is maybe in a sense where it could probably catch machines that didn't reboot yet. But if a machine has hit this and they can't boot, I mean, Ansible can't even start or even run. Ansible can't reach any servers that aren't, powered on or aren't booted. So it wouldn't fix it if it's already happened. But do you know, Joao, if this will blue screen on update or if this is after the first reboot?
It blue screens as soon as the sensor loads the new update.
Okay,
So it's running, gets the update, blue screen.
so no, Ansible would not solve this. There'd be no way for Ansible to solve something like this. Unless the only thing you can do is if you use any, excuse me, that's the thing about recording live. If you use any update system, obviously you want to make sure that this is blocked. That's a very important thing to do. Um, I'm pretty sure that CrowdStrike has fixed it, but the damage has already been done because the update has gone out. Um, I don't know how the updates work with CrowdStrike because it's one thing to update, but as we know in the world of Linux, we have repositories that stagger and there might be CDNs. I would assume that something like this will get fixed and sent out very quickly, but I would also assume people would test things first, and here we are.
One result from this is that it kills trust. First, it kills trust on CrowdStrike. The CEO was on NBC earlier today claiming that, yeah, we've fixed the problem and now we're working with our customers, getting everybody back online again and making sure that no bad guys can get into their systems. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure many of your customers are not going to let you back into their systems
I
again.
know. It's like now we need to be protected from the protector. And oh, actually, I probably should have asked. So just so people know, if your comments are public, obviously, just wanted to mention that because a lot of people are, in the audience are working in system administration. So just consider if your name is very similar to your real name, if you're at all attached to a company dealing with this, because there's going to be policies. But that being said, we do have an individual that commented that it rebooted 99% of their machines. They all were had a blue screen of death in the morning. So there you go. It's and that's kind of a segue to a side topic here. Just like a lot of weekends just got canceled by this. That's huge.
This this hits companies probably in the worst, excluding Christmas, in probably the worst time of the year, which
Right.
is when you have reduced staff because some people are already on vacations and others are just looking at leaving for vacations. So there's not many people on staff and on call and ready to go back in and fix the problem. It really, really it leads credence to the assumption that people made when they were entering their offices this morning and saw the systems down, that this was an attack. This was a cyber attack. This was the big one. They finally targeted our company. We have all our systems crashed and malware is in them. And they made all of these assumptions. And then, yeah, everybody started looking at the news and figuring out that it wasn't just them, it was everybody, it was everywhere. So yeah, but there will be lots of overtime being done this weekend and probably through next week as well, because since the fix cannot be made remotely, you don't have remote access to the machines while they are on the blue screen of death, then you need to go locally. If those are VMs, then you need to log to their console. It's
Yeah.
not a complicated fix, but it takes a long time. That mention that was made that the 15 reboots or something might fix this. I mean, that's black magic.
That's just
if
you're just hoping for a race condition, probably.
if rebooting a computer 15 times gives you a different result at the last one, there's something fishy going on. Um, I don't know about you, but do you really trust the system at that point?
Yeah, but CrowdStrike has achieved some things, though. I'm sure this is record breaking, but also they've achieved 100% perfect security. Just when I thought no company would ever have a product that'll 100% secure your systems, they've achieved it. They shut everything down and nothing's running, so the hackers aren't getting in either. So I guess we have to have a sense of humor in a horrible situation
Yeah,
like this, especially considering how many people, just come into work this morning, just like someone commented already, presumably, oh, Janet's system's down. I don't know why. Oh, that one's down. That's weird. Two blue screens of death. A third one? Whoa, what's going on here? I can't even imagine what that must have been like. And then, the number of all hands meetings happening right now at companies across the world. We have probably more IT meetings happening right now than probably any time in history. It's just a guess, but I think it's reasonable.
it's probably more than what we had for Log4j, and that one was pretty big as well.
Right.
But as I was saying, this kills trust, and not just on CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike at some point today had lost 20% of their market valuation, and that's massive for a company of this size. We're talking
Yeah.
billions of dollars. But it also kills trust on other security vendors. The first thing that other security vendors, when they try to close the deal, are going to get to be asked right now is that, okay, what measures are you taking to prevent something like this from happening with your product? And now they're going to have to show more and they're going to have to provide
Yeah.
more information and all of that and go the extra mile. That wouldn't be required prior to this incident. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm saying it's more burden on the others and people will be less open to trusting them implicitly. And also, if the damage is this, if the scope of the incident is like this, then why not just take the chance with the threat actors? At least it's cheaper and more contained.
Yeah, at least you might actually get never mind. I shouldn't joke about that, but um it's just incredible. It's to try to unpack what to do about this. I mean, one thing is, as much as we try to prepare for things, we can't predict everything. And I mean, I knew, and I'm sure many other people know, this only a matter of time before a wide scale update breaks a bunch of devices or something like that. We know it's going to happen. Um, but it still doesn't, there's just no, it's hard to prevent something that you could not have predicted, because it's like, hopefully, a once in a lifetime thing. And hopefully, if CrowdStrike still exists, they won't do this again. But I'm kind of wondering, can they even exist after this? Because I've seen many companies as of you that have had a breach, but they bounce back sometime in the future. But I feel like the more publicity this gets and the more the media covers it, the more people know the name CrowdStrike in a completely different sense. It's got to be hard to sell a product when anyone that Googles you is going to find story after story after story of how you messed up their systems.
It's going to be really tough for their sales engineers coming up, but
Yeah.
still, I mean, this becomes a massive PR problem for them the moment that CNN opens their newscasts with this story. And the
Yeah.
moment just every TV station out there opens with this story, this becomes a problem as soon as it leaves the IT sphere. And this story is so massive that, again, you couldn't do this type of damage if you try to do a malware attack. If you try to do an infrastructure attack or something like that, you would be hard pressed to come up with something that caused as much disruption as this. Now the threat actors know we need to target the CrowdStrike software, because if we get it to crash, we crash these many systems. So now
Right.
they also implicitly made themselves the target. But trying to do something of this scope maliciously and intentionally would be really difficult, and they made it by accident.
Gosh, allergies today. Don't know what's going on. So between systems and allergies, um, where were we? Okay, so well, the other thing I wanted to mention here is some of the things that we could do to mitigate it. I mean, there's several things. I should say to work around it to fix the systems already affected by this. We already spoke about the safe mode thing. Boot into safe mode, and if someone's just tuning in, there's an article on CrowdStrike. I should probably find it after this and put it down there. If you're affected by this, there's a specific file in the operating system folder. Delete it, and then you're fine. Problem though, obviously, you can't automate that. It's before the system boots. Automation happens after the boot. If it's a cloud instance, and this is the new thing, one way that you could fix this is to detach the virtual volume, attach it to another machine, another virtual machine, as a secondary disk, delete the file, reattach it to the original server, and that should hopefully get you back going again. But it's just really hard to learn something when it's just a company, right? We have, obviously there's going to be companies that have individual lessons to learn. Maybe one company has the stance that our disaster recovery plan was great and it worked. We're back in business, and another company is probably going to be working on this for a very, very long time, depending on how prepared. There's a lot of lessons I think people are learning, but on a global scale, I feel like there's just so many pieces to pick apart. We have the Windows operating system, how it's designed. We have CrowdStrike, and I hope I didn't say CrowdSec because I'm working on a CrowdSec video. They're not related to this, but CrowdStrike is now a company, like you said, that achieved what threat actors weren't able to. They've brought down a large number of computers. Oh, sorry, I think you're muted, Joao. I can't hear you. Huh? Yeah, I don't hear you. It's odd. In the chat room, does everyone hear me? And does anyone hear Joao? Just want to make sure it's not me. And there's a little delay in the chat showing up after I say things, so we're still waiting for the chat to catch up. Okay, so you can hear Joao? Okay, so I'm being heard. Okay, yep, there it is. There you are.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, yeah. I think you got CrowdStrike. No, you don't use CrowdStrike, but
So
okay.
CrowdStrike couldn't get me. Um, there's the problem with what happens inside of CrowdStrike as well. Um, I'm pretty sure the person who made this mistake is no longer working at CrowdStrike at this point, but it might be it it probably should be a bit more expensive than this. The fallout shouldn't just fall on the guy that happened to code the update.
Right.
This is likely a process issue inside of CrowdStrike, because if you have the ability to just push an update that you just worked on to everybody without any proper review, any proper testing, any testing units being run, any deployments being done internally, any lab environment being used, then that's a process problem. That's not just someone's problem, whoever coded this problem. It's a problem for the way that you approach the product. You need better processes. You need to
Yeah.
make sure that everything gets tested before it goes out the door. And you can't expect people to believe that this was the only update ever that you didn't test. That doesn't fly. It doesn't matter how sad the CEO looks when he speaks on NBC, and he really looked down. There was no other way to
I
approach
bet he
this.
does. Yeah.
But come on, this isn't something that just happened on this update. This is something that happens on every update, and it just happened that no one had broken before. This was the one to fail. But you need to review your internal processes, and somebody should be accountable for that.
I definitely think somebody is accountable. And I think they found out their accountability pretty quick. Um, Now, one thing I wanted to, wow, that kind of didn't process right. I was trying to paste links in here for the giveaway, guys. Again, I pasted both and it ran them together. Let me fix that. So if you're just joining, I'm giving away until the link expires. I don't know how many are left. Free courses, Ansible and Linux Essentials for you guys joining. Now, what I wanted to talk about a bit, another thing is there's another thing I'm nervous about here, that this is going to create more update stigma, because already on the podcast on enterprise Linux security, for whoever doesn't already know where I'm at, we talk about these things, and we talk about updates being very important. We tell people you need to install your updates. It's very important. Has security fixes. We've probably said that you could play a drinking game and you'd be smashed before you would get to the 10-minute mark. Don't do that, by the way. But now it gets harder to sell the fact that everyone needs to install their updates when that's exactly what caused it. I mean, it's not the fact that they updated, it's the payload of the update that caused it. But still, we know better. We know that this is a mistake that somebody made. We know that. But managers, it's just, I feel like it's going to be confirmation bias. It's just going to confirm the, stigma around updates. And I hope we don't end up with more unpatched systems as a result of this.
And that's definitely a problem that might come out of this. Somebody on the chat was asking if the outage is still going on.
Yeah.
Systems, until they are rebooted and that file is removed, will not be able to get out of the blue screen of test state. So yeah, until every single system out there that has CrowdStrike sensor deployed and is running Windows is fixed by someone manually performing that task and going through that process, this will continue.
Yeah.
Obviously, when we said that CrowdStrike broke the internet, we didn't literally mean that the internet was down because of CrowdStrike. We implied that many servers out there were down because they had CrowdStrike deployed. This affects both systems, both servers and workstations. But again, it's really, really difficult to exaggerate on the reach that this has. There were hospitals that were sending patients away because their systems were down. They couldn't do admission. They couldn't track, for example, exams going through their process internally. They couldn't track lab results. They couldn't ensure that the right patients were getting the right medicine. this is life and death in many situations.
It is.
It brings to light how interconnected everything is and how dependent we are on having our IT systems running all the time. And yeah, something good to get out of this. System administration appreciation day is coming up next
Yep,
week.
yep. I just
1
wanted
week from today, sysadmins will be working overtime until then. So make sure to show them your appreciation if you're not one, and if you are one, put a little sticky note outside your door. Yeah, I want pizza and ice cream next Friday.
Yes, at least. And on that, if anyone has any other ideas, we're throwing some ideas around to create a video for System Administrator Appreciation Day. So while we're talking about this, if anyone has any ideas or things that we think would make a good part of the video, I'd appreciate that. There was another point that I wanted to make because there's just so many things to unpack. It's just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I think this is one of those situations. Oh, I remember what it was. So when someone asked, "Is this still an issue?" Yes and no. Yes, companies are recovering from this, and they're going to be for quite some time. No, it's not an issue in the sense that my understanding, at least, is that that update has been fixed. So if your machine is powered off, presumably if it gets the update, I'm not telling anyone to download the update, obviously, but if it did just now come on, according to CrowdStrike, they fixed the update, but it's still going on in the sense that companies are going to be recovering from this. And um, to answer the question, is it still a problem in the sense of individual companies? Yes and no. There are some companies that are back, not many. Okay. But the if a company is, their systems are operational right now, it literally comes down to how good their disaster recovery plan is. Literally. Like the better the disaster recovery plan, the faster they're going to be back in business. So that really kind of depends on the business. And it's just a cascading effect. As you think about things after the story, you think about things you probably now can't do. Like if you're hungry, oh, just go to a fast food restaurant. Oh, can't do that. Oh, I'll just go to the restaurant. Can't do that. I need a life-saving procedure. Depending on where you are, maybe you might not be able to get it. It really depends on the person. On the news, there was somebody who was trying to board a plane to get to his wedding. Okay, someone's trying to get married, and everything's planned and can't do it because of this. So this is one of those things where the more you think about it, the more you realize what could potentially be impacted by it. And whether your bank works could be down to what systems they have deployed in their data center. Some people's banks are working fine. Maybe yours isn't. It's just one of these things where we're going to keep getting reports of companies down as they become discovered.
Something that might not happen in the US and does happen here in Europe is that the weekend in the middle of July is the busiest day on all of the airports here. It's when people are going on vacations and coming back from vacations. This is absolutely insane in the major airports right now. Stuff like Gatwick, stuff like in Paris and Frankfurt, all the major airports here in Europe have these queues that go out the door. People are being boarded manually. The check-in is being done manually, and you can imagine how slower that is when you're trying to push thousands of people into their airplanes or outside the airport. And this delay, the flight boards were showing just a blue screen of death. Nobody knew where they had to board the planes, what gates to go to. This was a mess, a real mess on the busiest flight weekend of the year for Europe.
So one thing, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't.
I was just wondering, like the liability of this, and I don't know the answer. I'll be clear. I'm just speculating, or I actually am not even speculating. I'm just wondering, like, you have companies like you were saying, biggest tourist time of the year. Obviously, they're banking on ticket sales. That's just how it is. They're not, obviously getting as many ticket sales. The systems are down. Um, can a company? I just wonder if a company can sue CrowdStrike and how many will. I mean, I mentioned earlier I didn't know if they would still exist just based on reputation alone, but unless they have something in their contract that people are signing that says they're not liable for system failures, which is, you know, what they're kind of trying to protect, I wonder if they'll at this point be sued out of existence.
I'm pretty sure their legal team is growing today. So yeah.
Yeah.
They will be in for some fun times as well, trying to get all of that sorted out. I mean, even if their contract says that they're not liable for something above a certain level or something like that most contracts like this have this type of exclusions, there is something to be said about, again, the scope and how far reaching and how many people are impacted by this. Even if everybody claims the minimal amount that they can under their contract, it will still be an enormous amount of money. There are two outcomes that may come out of this. Either 1 year from now, everybody has forgotten and CrowdStrike has recovered on the stock market, or 1 year from now, there is no longer any CrowdStrike. And right now, it's a coin toss.
Yeah, I mean, we really don't know what's going to happen. We could kind of speculate a bit based on what's happened in the past, but sometimes I've felt in the past that some people can be too complacent about companies when they fail. Sometimes it's the opposite. A company fails in a slight way and people make a big deal out of it. Well, this is a big deal. There's no exaggeration here. Um, it's just the more that comes out, the more we find, the more details. I mean, we don't even know what exactly happened. Obviously, it was the update, but how did it get pushed? Did someone press a button? Did someone, obviously, no matter what, it's a person's fault, but it's just like, was it an issue in the automation system? Was it a buffer overflowed an update? I mean, I don't know, but regardless, to your point, it wasn't tested. And it's just incredible to me that a company with this much responsibility was allowed to push an update like that.
They should have multiple tiers internally for this type of testing. They should be using the updates weeks before they release them to production themselves on their own systems, the developers at the very least, and probably everybody in the company as well. Even Microsoft, that everybody always points out as a bad example of how to push updates and that they're always doing the wrong choices and all of that. Even then, Microsoft themselves used the versions that are being worked on right now are the ones that they are using internally before pushing them out to customers. And that's how you do this type of things. You're very careful whenever you push something out that might in some unexpected way affect the behavior of the software that you sold. I mean, internally as a Taxcare, we are especially careful about this. We have lots of different groups for the updates. We don't release anything that hasn't been in staging for days. There are many different precautions, and we're not even remotely comparable in size to CrowdStrike. Again, the processes need to change, and people need to be reassured of how they change them. And if CrowdStrike wants to be deployed on any systems going forward, they really need to be transparent about this, especially, and I've seen this question also go by on the chat, they need to explain exactly how is it that an update to a pack of signatures, and I believe this was what the update was, how that type of update can break their system like this. Because if it turns out that it's something, just say, something malformed in the content, some XML tags that weren't closed, some JSON that wasn't properly formatted or something, then boy, there are a lot of CrowdStrike deployments out there. There are a lot of malware actors out there. They might try to push malicious updates to CrowdStrike going forward. They've seen the scope and they've seen how easy it is to take down. So yeah, they need to be 100% transparent on how this happened, what they are doing to fix it, and why we should trust them again with our systems.
Absolutely. And the problem is there's just not a lot to say yet because, you know, this obviously been less than 24 hours, I believe. I don't think we're quite at 24 hours. I don't remember the exact time it happened, but it's literally that simple. An update went out that shouldn't have gone out. Millions of Windows computers out there. They have the product installed. They received the update. As at least one person mentioned in the chat room, and you as well, it'll once that hits the kernel, it's going to reboot the system. And when it boots, it can't finish the process, tries again. There's a report allegedly that 15 reboots could make it start, but To me, that just doesn't make sense, because if it's a kernel issue, why would it work sometimes? If it's that just doesn't. Again, that's just because we don't know the main details here. It's just and the fallout from this is just going to keep cascading. We'll be talking about this for a long time.
I really need to see an explanation why 15 reboots will fix this. Really, really interested in knowing how that works.
Yeah, assuming it's not just
hearing it's being said out loud, my ears just hear black magic fixes it. Not
Right.
15 reboots. Black magic, it fixes the problem after a while. And I really think that IT is not black magic, doesn't need black magic, and people should trust what they are doing. I'm not just going to start rebooting a system 15 times just to fix some issue again.
Right.
I don't have any clue why that would work.
I don't either. So I'm not sure if we have a whole lot more to say. I assume if we have a few more minutes, at least, unless you had more you wanted to say on your end, we could probably take some questions from the chat room if anyone has any. Yeah, someone mentioned they don't think 15 reboots is an elegant fix, and it's really not. And we don't even know if it's a fix. We don't even know what it does, if it does anything. It's more like, it sounds like a race condition to me. That's what it sounds like, but I digress.
I see somebody saying that magic can be a valuable sysadmin tool, but that's when you know what you're doing and you fix a very complicated problem in a simple way and people are left wondering what you did. That's the type of magic that works for sysadmins, not the type that leaves sysadmins themselves befuddled.
It looks probably like magic to some people, because they have this really annoying computer problem, and then one of us comes by, oh yeah, just do this, and it's done. It's like, oh wait, what? It really that easy? Yeah, it's that easy. It kind of does look like magic, but there's no magic here. The systems are down. They're in a boot loop, and if you are using BitLocker and encryption, that's encryption at rest. That's going to make it a little bit more involved to delete that file that you need to delete. Because for those of you just joining, I'm going to put a link in the description after this is over that points to an article that mentions the file name and where it is in the Windows operating system folders. You can look for the file. They give you a timestamp, so you can go there and find out. Let's see, hold on, sorry, something in the chat room. So someone's asking this question here, wants to know if there's if we know anything that's in the updates, because I know there's a signature update, but it's more of an endpoint protection system. So and I'm not really familiar with CrowdStrike, just to let everybody know, and I am now, as are many other people.
The update is applied to a data collection tool. So I'm assuming that what comes in these updates are either more metrics that they are reading or different ways to access those metrics. Probably reading from performance monitor counters, reading from kernel values directly, reading from event logs in a different way. I believe that's what comes in this type of updates. I'm not 100% sure.
Right. Yeah, and I think, even though this isn't Microsoft's fault, with the media, I've seen at least one article said something, and you mentioned this too, something about due to a Microsoft problem, systems are down, which is not their fault, but that's what everyone's reporting. I do want to see higher Linux adoption numbers, but not for this reason. Obviously, we don't want to blame Microsoft and then get it for that reason. We got to be honest. It's an issue between CrowdStrike and I almost said Microsoft. Here we are. So it's an issue with an update, and it's a CrowdStrike problem. That's just what it is. But
I'm pretty sure that in these meetings that you mentioned before that lots of companies were having right now on how to address this, they are looking at two different things. First, how can we change our architecture so that we no longer depend on CrowdStrike? Maybe adopting a different operating system, maybe not using the same services, maybe moving to a different platform altogether. And secondly, how do we trust another security vendor altogether again? And that's another big ask and another big question that companies have to look at.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It's you do have to really look at everything through a magnifying glass to trust a company before you sign that, get a statement of work from them. But then again, every company says they're gonna do this and they're gonna do that, and they'll walk your dog and do your dishes too while they're at it. I mean, they're gonna do everything for your company, and that's how they sell it. But and then we believe it. Oh yeah, that does the thing that I need done. I'll buy that, and then next thing you know, you go to work and nothing starts. But it's kind of like luck of the draw. I mean, it's hitting the people that just so happen to have chosen CrowdStrike as their solution. People that are companies that decided to go a different direction beforehand are probably very happy right now. And people that decided to stay with CrowdStrike, if when that contract was up for renewal, oh man, regret is strong with that individual.
And the sysadmins working on Linux only shops are feeling pretty smug right now, drinking their margaritas. Yeah.
Oh gosh, we have to joke about it, but at the end of the day, we're preparing a sysadmin appreciation day video, and they're gonna really need it after this.
Absolutely.
Especially really gonna need it. So make your system administrators feel really happy after this, because they're gonna save the day as they always do, and they're gonna be super tired and maybe half awake after it, and they're gonna be drinking more caffeine than normal, but it's fine. They'll get through it as they always do, but we just got to make sure that we give them a little something to thank them for it. So, anything else we want to add to our discussion, or?
No, I believe we talked over the most important and most relevant points here, and the stuff that really matters for the people that have to deal with this right now, which is, now you do have to go through each of your blue screen machines. Each and every one of them is going to need some commands run on them. So, you better ask for some overtime pay.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Well, thanks everyone that joined, and everyone that's watching after the fact. I appreciate each and every one of you. It's been fun. I love live streams. Maybe I could do more that I have the courses out now, but again, appreciate you guys, and thanks for tuning in.
Bye, guys.